So my first question will be to Professor Xu. There you go. There's a university student who's quit. And I suspect this is the kind of challenge that you have in terms of creating a new university to engage. Can you tell us more about how you would tackle that young man's issues?
Okay, I'm very much familiar with address by these students. I think the education now in China and in the world do not make students feel useful and interesting. So we have to reform our curriculum and teaching. The bottom line is education must make students feel useful and interesting. Otherwise, the students will quit. Well, in our university and many universities of China, there are plenty of students like him. Okay, I think this is the goal of our university doing these experiments, try to reform education.
And how does that relate to the Chinese economy? I mean, we've seen the rapid growth of China as the manufacturing engine of the planet. But does that mean that the next generation of Chinese citizens that are coming through, the ones that are coming through university, want to join that manufacturing revolution? Is there a change that's influencing your policy and the way that you're designing your curriculums?
What you asked is very important now in China. The industry and the economy now is transformed from the manufacture into design and the creative industry. So they require very talented students. And it requires students can do interdisciplinary work. But however, they cannot find such qualified young people now. Also, there are 20% university students cannot find a job. So this is a very urgent problem in our China. I think Chinese education must reform to make university education match the requirement of our economy and the changing society.
You say they can't find a job. Is it because they can't find a job that they want, or is it that the employers are not finding the skilled outputs from university that they need?
Okay, most students cannot find a job at the salary they require. And the salary average of Chinese university students no guide from employer is almost same like the physical labors. The young people come from countryside to do the physical work. So university students feel the higher education is useless since their value does not increase. So this is really a problem for us.
So this is, I mean, I think this is almost a universal problem, isn't it? Is the assumption, the historical assumption that a university degree would suddenly transport you to the land of milk and honey and a high salary job. Yeah. That clearly isn't the case in China at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I think Chinese fast economy make this problem very sharp. So we feel very urgent to solve this problem. This is the goal of our new university, to try to do this.
So Jahara, Dan Brown, familiar story?
Well, I haven't dropped out yet, so I think I'm still going strong, but I think that he makes a point when he talks about the fact that creativity is destroyed in the classroom. One of the earlier panels was discussing the need to remove distractions from the classroom. And the idea that my mind is 100% present in this debate right now is so far removed from the truth. And every person in this room right now is thinking about a million different things. And I think what's really sort of expedited that is also the fact that I have a mobile phone, always at arm's reach, that I can pull up and I can Google facts and I can communicate with people all around the world. And I think the idea of removing distractions from the classroom is an impossible one. And I think what teachers need to do and what the system needs to realize is that you have to use those distractions as a means to connect with the student and as a means to get them more engaged. So just as he was talking about information being, free, that I can find out whatever I want to find out just by Googling it, then what do you do now? You have to fuel the creativity to take those facts to a new level. And I think that that's what a lot of people are failing to do. And I think that's where students become disinterested.
I think it's interesting. We've heard a lot over the last sort of day and a bit about the idea of learner autonomy and creating autonomous learners. Of course, that's one of those wonderful things. I've heard it at conferences for the past 30 years. And yet we have a device like a smartphone, which is becoming increasingly prevalent, and it is called a distraction. Would you comment on that a little bit more? You mentioned the fact that you have a smartphone and so on. How, within your own experience, are you allowed to use that in the middle of your education? And does that extend into school education as well?
Most teachers find it as a very big distraction, and even professors now in university don't like to see you on your phone. And yeah, some people are on BlackBerry Messenger and talking to their friends, but other people are genuinely Googling facts, looking up articles, and you can pull all these things up on your phone. So why not do that? And if that helps the debate or helps your understanding of the problem, that should be allowed. And I will never forget a class I had with a professor last semester when the Arab Spring was going on, and he actually asked us to just stop what we were doing and just discuss what was going on. So if we wanted to use our phones, if we wanted to sort of tweet or discuss it with people that were there, that we were free to. And we should bring those discussions back to class and sort of try to demonstrate what's going on through a personal, because we're all related to the issues that are going on around the world. We're not removed from any of them. Because if I want to know what's going on in Libya, or if I want to know what's going on in China or England, I can easily be connected with someone there now. So why not give the individual the tools that they need to help bring that to education?
And would you use your smartphone in an examination? Call a friend if you're having a tricky question? Why not? You do that in the real world. Why wouldn't you do that in an exam?
I think that when you talk about examination, I think society has a preoccupation with measuring success. And I think that certain occupations are given a higher ranking on, society's understanding of what an important job is. But I think that what people forget to realize is that if we didn't have the people that are baking our bread or fixing our cars, we're never going to get to where we need to go. So yeah, being a doctor is great, being a professor is great, but you need everyone else in the system, and we need to stop looking at it as a hierarchy and start looking at it as a sort of symbiotic circle. If you don't have one of the parts, then society isn't going to function. And I think that if a student wants to go to university, great. All the tools that he or she needs to get there should be given to him. But if someone wants to be a mechanic, or someone wants to be a baker or a candlestick maker or whatever you want it to be, then they should be allowed to do that too. And society should endorse all of those things.
That's a good point. And I'd like to pick that up with Magdalena. Magdalena, you're from the primary education sector, and I know that you have some questions about the sort of university and the power that universities appear to have, and the fact that so much is driven. And we've heard it so many sessions, haven't we, over the last day, that everything's driven towards getting a university degree, like it's some kind of key to the future. Would you like to comment on your thoughts about the university versus vocational learning and your experiences in the primary sector?
Well, in Norway, there's very little private schools. Most kids go to state schools. And I have to admit, I have a college degree. I'm a teacher. I went to teaching college. But I think that if everyone is pushed through college and university, you will have the same problem as you have in China. You have too many overqualified people who are going to pay them. Do you need a university degree to become a carpenter or to mend a car? Or do you need a university degree to, as in Norway, clean snow out of the roads? If you need a university degree for that, it costs a lot of money to go to university. The salary for the people cleaning the snow out of the streets will be horrendous. We can't pay for that.
So Tim, you've managed to work through the education system in the UK and be innovative and made a career out of that. What do you think are the restrictions and limitations on teachers at the moment? Am I correct in my rather bleak summation of how teachers are restricted, the art of teaching being eked out in favour of being a factory worker?
I think they're in incredible amount of pressures upon teachers these days, whether it's government level, authority level, inspection level, and all that can put an awful lot of pressure and have an incredibly negative impact on health, let alone standards, the sheer panic. Across the UK, but way beyond, I still think that when we're talking about engaging and motivating, our biggest responsibility really is to engage and motivate our teachers, because there are many that perhaps the sage on the stage model that sadly we've been hearing about over the last few days in many regions across the globe. It's the aspect of teachers not turning up to work, let alone their pupils. I think the idea of keeping open models of teaching, I said the idea that the word teacher is too one-sided. We also need to keep up with the tools, the toys, the tricks and things that our students use at home. Otherwise our classrooms are stagnant in comparison. A good friend of mine, Andy Hutt, said that one of the best things that ever happened to him was when a man came up and put his hand on Andy's shoulder and said, "Mr. Hutt, when I was in your class, I never thought I was learning anything. Thank you." The open models of exploring, the idea that Dan said, information is available. There's the movement of the flipped classroom at the moment, the idea of why have the man who thinks he knows everything giving out all the information, and then students going home and doing all the creative stuff for their homework. Turn it round, get the students to research, to find out whatever they can about the subject that's going to be discussed the next day, and then with the help of the teacher as a facilitator to be more creative, whatever that means, and get across the results perhaps as a play or a rap song or a film. In other words, working alongside each other, teacher and student. I think teacher training in creative methods of teaching is the most important duty for us as education policy makers, maybe across the world.
But teacher training for what? I mean, and if we don't know what the system should be, what are we training them for? I mean, I think that one of the issues is that we have an education system that has worked in the past for a particular economic foundation. I mean, the productive forces that came out of those systems were for a particular purpose. We see many countries, perhaps our own included, which are busy turning the clock back to the 1950s, which would be fine if the economic base, the foundation, had the same jobs. I was destined to go and work in a factory when I was coming out of my comprehensive school. Luckily that I didn't, really, because the factories were closed down. And I want, so I do agree that, CPD and teacher training and so on is vital, but what are we training them for? Tim first and then Magdalena.
It's the aspect, as Dan said in that film, that education in some ways could be seen to have reached a full stop in some people's minds, whereas society keeps moving on. Another good friend of mine, Dougal, said that my teachers were brilliant. They taught me poetry, they taught me how to debate, they taught me how to write a good, strong, powerful, persuasive letter, but they let me down. This is a man of about the same age as me. I'm about 50 now. And sorry, Dougal, if that's an exaggeration of your age, but he said, they let me down. Back then in the 70s, they didn't teach me how to write a wiki, how to blog, how to podcast, how to interact with social media. My clumsy retelling of Dougal's story is really to illustrate that society has moved forward. And as you've said, Johara, the idea that, phones, mobile learning removed, because some teachers have a fear of losing their jobs, losing their information imparter role to this weird technology. We have to keep up. I mean, you asked what's the role of a teacher, and I suppose in many respects, yes, what's the role of a teacher other than to keep up and empathize. We talked about motivating and inspiring. You looked... My favourite thing hearing you yesterday talking when we were meeting before this was the boy at the back of the classroom. Tell us about him. How are you going to keep up with him?
Well, that was not what I was planning to say right now, but I can try. I believe everyone knows one of the boy on the back of the classroom. I got to know Graham now, and he told me that he was one of them. They're bored. They are so bored out of their wits. They don't know what to do. And one goal can be just to get them to come to school, just to show up in school and not bother everyone around. And what I do to motivate, I'm not really sure what I do to motivate. It comes natural to me. Sorry. I think humor is a key word. The teacher needs humor, self-irony, and the teacher needs to be engaging. They need to know their stuff, but they also need to know that the world is changing. My students know that when we have, I'm also a science teacher, when we have experiments, they're allowed to film their experiments. They're allowed to take pictures, to use that in their reports. They're allowed to take pictures of the blackboard when I write up the lesson or the homework for tomorrow. I mean, the phones are amazingly, you can use them for everything. And they can, even on Facebook, they discuss how to write their reports over Facebook or MSN. It's wonderful.
How, though, are you rewarded as a teacher for being so inspiring and engaging? Surely the only performance metric is whether they pass their tests.
Yeah, I'm not rewarded by any money because of all the kids that I pushed through school. I should have, because I pushed a lot of them through, and I haven't had one single student yet failing on me, because I have a good relation to them. They don't dare to fail on me, because I'm scary, right? No, because I have a good relation to my kids. We work, I think testing can be very good in some aspects, and very, very bad in other aspects. Testing is good for us teachers to see how we can help this kid onwards, but not to find out what the normal rate for the mark is in whatever subject.
So testing not as a carrot and stick, but more perhaps as a diagnostic tool for you as a practitioner to work out what's working for each particular child. I mean, I think we were talking earlier today, and you were saying that what is a good result for one kid might not be such a good one for another, and vice versa. I mean, it's about individual improvement, where it seems that we're using testing throughout the education system as a means of saying you've passed or you've failed, not that you've improved or the areas where you improve, or a particular teaching style or learning style helps you improve in a particular area. I mean, would you agree? Would you like to comment on that?
I think it's important to set goals for the students. You need to, because the world is big, the world is changing. You need to set goals, because otherwise they don't know where to go, in what line of the horizon they should aim for. They need short-sighted goals. Let's have a test. We're having a test. I know what areas this student fail in or have problems with. We can make a goal together. That is important. The student and I need to make a goal together. I can't make a goal for the student if he's not interested. We need to make a goal together. It can't be too far away. It needs to be close, and we work together to reach that goal, whatever that might be. Writing full stop in sentences, as easy as that. Finding out how a paragraph works. How do I write a paragraph? As easy as that. It can be as easy as that.